Hi, I'm Paul Shepherd, your mindset coach, and welcome to the Mindset Change podcast, where you can be inspired and learn how to transform your mindset so you can create the life you truly want to live. Today's episode, I can't wait for this one. It's a part 2 of the Dark Side series, what you can do about your dark side and how to take back control. Are you ready? We better dive right in. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so you don't miss another episode. Before we start, I have some good news. I'm creating another episode per week for you to continue helping you change your mindset. With interviews, with talking about subjects like the dark side, I want to do more meditations too. They're one of my favorite things to do. So there are going to be definite meditations added in each week for you to relax and work with your mind on a much deeper level. Without further ado, let's get back to your dark side. Now, in the Wake Up to Your Dark Side Part 1, I shared with you a perspective about the part of you that doesn't want you to be happy. It's troubled, it's stressed, it's anxious, and can be angry. And today I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we can do about it. And I'm going to offer a twist, a plot twist to what the dark side could also be up to. And it is quite surprising. But let me just refresh your memory on what the dark side actually is. So this morning I was at F45, which is a gym I go to, and I was talking to one of the owners, Jane, and she was telling me she would love to journal. She has an amazing pen, a beautiful book, but can't start the process. Why? Because there's a voice inside her mind that simply stops her. So I said to her, who stops her? She said, me. I stop me. And I said, what if it's not? What if it's not you? What if it's your dark side? Well, that raised an eyebrow, especially as I was doing pull-ups at the same time as trying to have this conversation. But think about it. Who stops you from doing all the things you want to do, that you would love to do, that would enhance your quality of life in ways you might not be able to imagine? Now, you may also say me or you. And I would say no. I would say, from this perspective, it's your dark side. It acts from the subconscious and can, in a primal hypnotic trance, get you to believe its lies, get you to act on what it says, or get you to avoid what it tricks you into thinking you can't handle. So a couple of clients come to mind in regards to the dark side this week. One I'm extremely proud of. I've been working with someone who has bathroom toilet anxiety, and their dark side has convinced them that they couldn't go into a certain situation without having an accident, that they would need to use the bathroom and it would cause a big panic attack. Now, they began to get so worked up about this situation, they could actually have a panic attack without even being in that situation. And by becoming aware of their dark side, they phoned me this week to say they'd actually placed themselves in that situation. And of course, it was no way near as bad as their dark side had made it out to be. In fact, because they used these tools and strategies we've been going through, it was actually incredibly easy. And of course, that has now set them up to be able to go into more situations like that without being triggered. They know what to do. They know how to recognize our dark side. And I'll be sharing some of those tools with you in this episode. And another client I was talking to reminded me that when they go into situations where their dark side has predicted the worst, when they're in that situation, they usually begin to realize that it's nowhere near as bad as their dark side predicted. Very similar stories, but yet very empowering, because no matter what your dark side says, it's not likely to be telling the truth. It doesn't know. And it's always important to remember that. Just to refresh a little bit more about what the dark side feels like. Well, you know this part all too well. It can make you feel anxious and stressed from thoughts of a negative fantasy future which do not exist. It's that voice and feeling that can trick you into avoidance, that urge not to do something, to move away, to procrastinate on things which really could enhance your quality of life. The clever thing is, and it is pretty evil, that it can trick you into avoidance, and then later it can make you feel guilty and ashamed for not having the willpower to do what you needed to do. It can make you indulge in food, drugs, drink, porn, gambling, and other unhealthy habits, and then shame you for being so weak and pathetic. It gets you to compare yourself with other people and create stories about how much better than you they are, and it gets you to not accept who you are, and then gets you to wish that you were someone else. You can't be. So you're going to live a life of misery wishing you were someone else, looked like someone else, had something else. It doesn't like to help you accept who you are in this present moment. It talks about you only being happy when you reach some sort of goal, and then makes you choose another one, and another one, and another one, as happiness, of course, fails to materialize. Yes, you might get a moment of pleasure, but where's the lasting fulfillment? You literally become a hamster in a hamster wheel, just running around, trying to get happiness, not quite getting there. It's also very clever at making your mind wander away from the only moment that matters, the present moment. It catastrophizes, it's cynical, it's judgmental, it's resentful and manipulative. It can push you into rescuing people who then resent your rescuing. It sees the world from a victim mentality and can trick you into living in fear, waiting for bad things to happen to you. It makes you reactive to life instead of proactive. It will keep you feeling like you are not good enough. And if you're a parent, it will convince you you're a terrible parent and pick out all the things you're doing wrong with your child, completely having amnesia for all the things you are doing right. It chases short-term pleasures for dopamine hits, which it will gobble up like the computer game Pac-Man. It uses dopamine to urge you to do all the things you said you wanted to stop doing or reduce doing. And of course, it will make you feel bad for being such a loser and so weak. If you're in any doubt that your dark side exists, let me prove it to you. Let me show you how you can feel your dark side in action. Now, here's a little experiment inspired by Dr. Shauna Shapiro, who I had the pleasure of interviewing recently for the Rewiring Your Mind episode, which should be out shortly. It really is a fantastic conversation. Now, Dr. Shauna Shapiro has written the book Rewire Your Mind, it's called that in the UK, but in the States, it's called Good Morning, I Love You. Now, wherever you are, if you're able to, put your right hand over your heart. Really feel the warmth from your palm there. And this does trigger a lovely feeling from the oxytocin that gets stimulated by placing your hand here and touching yourself. Now, I'd like you to say something. You ready? I'd like you to say your name and then I love you. So it'd be like, Paul, I love you. How did it go? Do it again. So I'm saying, Paul, I love you. Did you feel the cringe? A recoil? Did you hear the thoughts of judgment about the exercise? Cheesy, woo-woo, inauthentic? Now that's your dark side right there, not being able to help you express love for yourself. How mad is that? Now, if you're a parent, I bet you would say to your child, well, I hope you do, that you love them, that you accept them, and you would cuddle them. Now, you might not have had that yourself, but how crazy is it that you can express love, acceptance, kindness, and compassion for yourself? And who's stopping you? Your dark side. If you were able to do it, wonderful. I would really encourage you to keep that going. But also what can make this a little bit odd is that you need to form new neural pathways to make this more natural for yourself. But the dark side is very clever at convincing you that this just isn't for you. And the reality is, accepting and loving for yourself is certainly for you. Let me ask you a question. If you loved and accepted yourself much more, refused to criticize yourself, was more kinder and compassionate, what would your life be like if you did that more often? Now, if your dark side is saying, hang on a sec, loving yourself is very egotistical, it's not very humble. Yeah, we're not talking about it in egotistical terms. We're talking about it in healthy terms, a healthy love and appreciation for yourself. You might be able to say it to others quite easily, but when it comes to you, your dark side won't have it and therefore can make it feel quite difficult. The dark side is also known as the ego. Eckhart Tolle, writer of The Power of Now and A New Earth, talks about the ego and the pain body. Psychoanalysis talks about the ego states and the parent and child. I recently did an interview with Patrick Brook where we talked about that in depth. Buddhism talks about the dark side as the monkey mind, as it likes to jump from thought to thought like a monkey jumping from branch to branch. And others may call it your inner demons. Alex Mill, the Zen monk I recently interviewed, called it the dark room. And you could call yours whatever you want, but whatever you're calling it, we're mostly saying the same thing. This is a conditioned primal part of you that focuses on the negatives, and if it's left to its own devices, can easily ruin your life and make you struggle and suffer unnecessarily. But some people are in denial, dark side. Now, some people think this can't be happening, as of course they want to be happy. Yeah, just ask them a few questions. The evidence for not wanting to be happy is quite simple. Ask yourself, are you doing everything in your power to increase your happiness, or are you seeking short-term pleasure, dopamine hits? You know what's good for you. You know what nourishes you. You know what would enhance your life in ways you can't imagine. And yet each day you can fall into the dark side's primal hypnotic trance and not do much of anything, if at all, towards creating the life you truly want to live. It tricks you into thinking you can do all those things another day, as if we're guaranteed another day. No one is. No one's guaranteed to live until the end of today. And maybe if we thought about that a little bit more, we might add a little bit more into the day where we're truly living, especially in each present moment. Dr. Shauna Shapiro pointed out that our minds wander 47% each day. So for nearly half the day, we're not even quite here. Where are we? Well, we're normally fantasizing, wandering into the past, into the future, usually for things that are not that helpful, dependent on what your intention is, of course. We can choose to be in the present moment and focus on the future or focus on the past in a helpful way. But are you really doing that? We have all said, and I think you can relate to this, something similar to, my diet could be so much better. Knowing how good we feel when we do eat well, yet the dark side is moving towards images of unhealthy food, drink, using dopamine to lure you back into feeling bad about yourself. We've all said things like, I could exercise more, I could drink more water, go to bed earlier, get a good night's sleep, I could use my phone much less. These would be life-changing if acted upon, but how many people let their dark side dictate their quality of life through their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors? And yet, despite the best of intentions, the dark side can trick you into a trance, and before you know it, you're doing what you said you wouldn't do, and the battle continues. I know you know this part of you all too well. I know mine, and it's still at play. I'd love to say I've transcended it. I'm beyond all of that. But I don't know anyone who is. I'll talk a little bit more about what we can do with that soon and about my perspective around having to still manage my dark side. But I want to talk about where it gets to me sometimes the most. So in the past 2 months, I found someone special to have a deep, intimate relationship with. Now, it's been a surprise to me. This person has come out of nowhere, and I know they're listening to this, probably with a big smile on their face. And this is where the dark side can really play its games. What's been wonderful about me and this person is that we have discussed this. We are aware where our dark sides can rear our heads. It's wonderful to be in a relationship where we can discuss this openly. But what's been interesting, as with any dark side, is how doubts and insecurities can pop up out of nowhere and often without any type of foundation. It can, in a trance, wander to all sorts of stories about them. And I get it. And in the past, I may have reacted to that, really entertained those stories. But I'm refusing to. Not this time. Because I know what to do about them. So what can you do about yours? Well, first of all, I want you to know you are not powerless. Though the dark side is very good at making you feel otherwise, remember that you are here listening to my voice, and this is your light side. It will keep on pointing out people, resources, situations for you to explore to help loosen the dark side hold of you so you can get your life back. If you're serious about taking control from your dark side, the first thing you have to do is to become awake and mindfully aware it actually exists and how much it can influence you. This takes a level of honesty that you might not have accessed before. As James Altucher said, honesty is the fastest way to prevent a mistake from turning into a failure. Or you can think about it in integrity terms, where Spencer Johnson said, integrity is telling myself the truth and honesty is telling the truth to other people. Integrity is absolutely vital for life transformation. And I'd really recommend Martha Beck's book, The Weight of Integrity, if you want to take this further. And this is where journaling becomes handy. Write down all the things that you notice about your dark side. What triggers it? How does it show up? And what's the cost of indulging in your dark side? Listening to it, believing it. How do you pay? Just notice where your mind goes when it wanders away from the present moment. It's here that you can start to take back control and transcend your dark side. By the way, it's much easier to become aware of your thoughts when you've had some form of mindfulness meditation training. We become less attached to them when we know how to observe and separate ourselves. Mindfulness meditation is a fantastic tool to help strengthen the prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate thoughts and emotions. What you practice will make your brain stronger. If only there was a good podcast that had lots of mindfulness meditations each week. Oh yes, this one. Use it. Do what you can to develop your mindfulness meditation progress. If your mind is wandering to a fantasy future that doesn't exist, inner criticism, judgment of yourself or others, any type of worry, then take a nice big deep breath down to the diaphragm, label the experience with something like this. This is just my dark side feeling anxious, or whatever emotion that's being triggered. I like to remind myself also that this is just a false alarm and I am safe. Naming it to tame it can reduce the limbic system dark side hijack by around 25%. Your limbic system is your survival center. The next step Any feelings of anxiety or stress are your nervous system being hijacked by your dark side. The naming of it, this is just my dark side being anxious, combined with accepting how you feel, breathing into your feelings, will reduce resistance. It does take a bit of practice, but it will, over time, help you become more emotionally in tune with yourself and more resilient. The more adept you get at managing your emotions means you won't fear them happening to you so much in your future. You know what to do with them. The next step, become the observer of your thoughts. Remember, you are not your thoughts. They are happening to you. You have the ability to step back and watch your dark side as another entity playing out their drama, trying to make you unhappy, worry, fearful, critical, or partake in any actions or habits that take you away from your goals and dreams. For me, this is like watching a big TV screen. It's like my head is immersed in a massive IMAX cinema. The closer the image, the more overwhelming it can feel. So when you think about something that's worrying you, is there an image that appears very, very close? Now, what I like to do is a bit of unconscious landscaping. If the dark side thought is too large and overwhelming, I can get a better perspective. And what I do is I take that thought, I breathe into it, I name it to tame it, and I begin to move the thought further back, almost like it's a screen slowly moving away from me. And that can reduce the effect on me almost immediately. I get to see this with clients every time I do that exercise with them. When we get spaced between ourselves and the thoughts, we feel differently. But we can take it even further by beginning to lower the thought down towards the floor, and you can continue to shrink it. As you may notice, if you're practicing this now, you may feel very different towards the thought that originally was terrorizing you. You're reducing the size of the thought. You're training your subconscious mind to begin to react to it differently. The more you practice this, the stronger it becomes, and you're taking back control from the dark side that has hijacked you. A bit of a mind-bendy question around this area is when you're watching the image, when you're looking down at the drama playing out in front of you, who is observing the drama and who is playing it out? Now, in some terminology, it's known as your true self, that peaceful, non-judgmental, and still version of you. Eckhart Tolle calls it your consciousness. Some people call it your authentic self. In psychoanalysis, it's your adult. Now, it doesn't matter what you call that element of you, but becoming aware of it and how still and peaceful it can be, and how simply you can access it with a breath, means you have a tool in your toolbox to take back control, to step back from the drama. But again, it does take practice. You might even hear your dark side saying, that sounds like hard work. Funny how it pops up, isn't it? Now, your relationship with your dark side can change everything. So here's the mindset shift, plot twist I promised at the beginning. You can use your dark side to become stronger, healthier, more peaceful, and successful. So 2 perceptions that could help. One is the dark side could be a messenger. Is the dark side pointing out something that needs your attention? And it will keep doing this until you do something about it. Remember, everything is data. Everything that it points out, everything that it says could be useful code or not. It's up to you whether you pay attention or let it pass. For example, as I mentioned earlier, one of my Achilles heels historically, and I don't mind being open about this, are relationships and romance. It's the same for lots of other people too. Now, I had my dark thoughts. I had my worries, I had my fears, and some of them are completely irrational. And what was interesting was that I didn't see it as a negative. I allowed those thoughts to be there and began to see what my dark side was pointing at, that this was an area of my life that just needed a bit more help, a bit more healing. So besides getting some support, I went into a deep hypnotic trance meditation and went to some of the roots of why I can struggle with people at times. And I found a young version of me struggling with the conditioning that they had been subjected to, and I gave them what they needed. With deep love, compassion, and kindness, I gave them a well-needed hug. I told them I loved them and that I was going to be there for them in a way that no one had ever been there for them before. By practicing that self-compassion, kindness, and love towards my younger self, I felt a huge shift. And I did it around the people that had created that conditioning throughout my life. I used a loving kindness type of meditation to continue that healing. You can find some of them on my podcast. It's one of the most powerful, scientifically studied versions of meditation, which has a huge impact on how we feel about ourselves and other people. I would heartily recommend it. Or you can get someone like myself guide you through that process. It's definitely worth doing. So with that healing, what began to happen was those thoughts, those worries, those fears my dark side were pointing out dissipated and were barely there anymore. Now, if you can't find a message, a helpful message, then put it to one side and shift your mindset by choosing to see your dark side experience as providing you with a wonderful opportunity to train your mind to transcend your thinking and grow like you have never grown before. It's like going into the gym, but for the mind. And the next step, feeling grateful, love, self-compassion, curiosity, kindness towards yourself and your dark side creates a lasting life transformation that will help you create the life you truly want to live. The dark side will say to some of you, this is too hard, it sounds like woo-woo, it's wishy-washy, all sorts of judgments, all sorts of skepticism, all sorts of cynicism. But deep down, there is another part of you that recognizes that what you're exploring may help you transcend that dark part of you. I'm not saying that this episode is going to do that for you. It may be a different path. But you may find yourself repeatedly drawn to people, situation, and circumstances, opportunities to keep growing and transcending beyond that dark part of you. If you don't, the dark side will keep pointing out that it can hold you prisoner within your thoughts until you train your mind to set yourself free. The moment you begin to label the dark side and step back from it with a breath is the moment you begin that process for freedom. And lastly, shift your attention to the present moment, as it's here in this very moment that we are likely to be our true selves, consciousness, free, and we have everything we need in this very moment, which can make us feel wealthy, healthy, and abundant. If you've not done my instant wealth meditation, I recommend doing that straight after listening to this. It goes into how in the present moment we are truly abundant. And it's a really nice way of shifting your mental filters to notice the good in life. Remember, it's only the dark side that convinces you that you are poor, that you don't have what you need. And it can get you to resist the present moment. It can get you to wish you were someone else. It can get you to wish you were somewhere else and have something else. And yet with a breath, you can break that spell and come back to freedom. So let's do a little mini exercise. I'll do a longer, deeper version separately in another episode. But for now, focus on something in your life which triggers your dark side. Something not too heavy, something like a predicted negative future event or even a memory. Allow the thoughts and feelings to arise. Don't resist them. Take some nice big deep breaths into your belly. Let's trigger the parasympathetic nervous system to tell the brain you are safe. Remember, allow and accept your feelings to be there. Name it to tame it. This is just my dark side feeling anxious, or whatever emotion you are being triggered into feeling. And then say, I am safe. This is just a false alarm. If you have a visual image which feels very close and overwhelming, gently picture it moving back away from you to give you some space between yourself and the thought. You can also Begin to lower it down towards the floor, watching it become smaller and reduce the importance of the dark side's thought. How does it feel down there? Now, don't shrink it till it appears to go to nothing. Allow it to be there to some degree. And think to yourself, is there a helpful message you can take from this thought? Something may come to mind or not. It's all data either way. Now, if you're not getting a message, begin to see this experience as an opportunity to work with the dark side and help to train your mind to transcend your attachment to thinking, which, if we were honest, is one of the biggest sources of your misery. Now, if you can, put your hand on your heart and express gratitude towards the dark side for showing you this message or for giving you the opportunity to train. Can you feel a shift? Can you feel grateful for the chance of powerful transformational change? And then shift your attention back to the only moment that matters, the here and now. Fully focus on your surroundings and the sound of my voice. Now you can repeat this and train your subconscious mind to respond differently to certain thoughts and feelings as they pop up. The more awake and aware you become, the easier it becomes to disassociate from thoughts which are trying to lure you into that primal hypnotic trance. Remember, what you practice will grow stronger. And this is how we build resilience, which for many is sadly lacking, as they have no idea how to handle their thoughts and emotions, so they try to suppress them, distract themselves from them, or get rid of them, which can just trigger more anxiety and stress. And lastly, journal. You could journal in the morning and ask yourself, what will I do with my dark side today? You can set the intention of working with it to transcend. You could list all the crafty ways it shows up, from the subtle bit of procrastination to the blatant. And then later on in the evening, ask yourself how your dark side showed up and what did you do? What could you do better next time? And there you go. I hope you found this episode really useful because I think it's life-changing. If you could manage your dark side and reduce its impact on you, imagine what you could create in your life. How would it be for you? What will you notice, first of all, happening more in your life if you are listening to your dark side a lot less? If your dark side still feels overwhelming to you and you're still not sure what to do, or you would like some extra help, you can contact me. I do one-to-one coaching online. I still see a small number of people each week and help them progress with whatever mindset issues they come to me with. I guess most people do like to talk about the anxiety side of things, as that's what I'm very well known for with my holistic approach to transforming anxiety into a more calmer, more confident, more peaceful experience. But I love working with all things mindset. So if you'd like to reach out, please do. You can contact me via the show notes and then we can arrange a free online consultation. I'm not here to sell you anything. All I do is explain to people who come to chat to me how I work, what it entails, the level of commitment involved, and then people can go away and think about it and decide from there. Hand on heart, I truly appreciate you choosing to spend your time with me listening to this episode and helping you transform your life. Because at the end of the day, I think if we're all making those changes within ourselves, that really does have an impact, not only on us, but on the people around us, the people closest to us. Can even have an impact on our communities as we reach out and be in service to more people, inspiring more people, creating more change. That spreads and at points can have an impact on our planet. You can't underestimate the changes you making yourself and the impact it has on the world around you. Now, this show is for you. I don't get paid for it. I do it all in my free time. So I'd like to ask you, with 3 episodes a week, what do you want me to cover? Is there anything that you want me to do less of, more of? Is there anyone you'd like me to interview? What is it that you would love to hear on this show? Please let me know via the show notes. You can contact me directly, or if you want to, you can leave a review, an Apple review, just by scrolling to the bottom of the show, and you should see a review section. I really would love to hear from you, because it's your feedback that has inspired me to do things very differently, and from that, the show has continued to grow. And look, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even a natural podcaster, even though I've been doing it a few years. This is all still new to me. Everything I'm doing is still new to me, and I really would appreciate your help. So your feedback would be most welcome. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode. I hope you have an incredible day.